Hello everyone, greetings and namaste. My name is Elijah. Thank you very much for watching this video. With me is my beautiful and lovely guest, Reverend Alison Levesley, who hails from Manchester, UK. Alright, this is the second time that Alison is back here in Singapore. I first met Alison last November during the Heart, Mind, Body, Spirit Festival when her booth was directly across from mine, and just loved her energy, and she was just attracting to her a line of clients after clients after clients. She couldn't even have a break, right? It was just non-stop, and it really resonated with her energy. If there's, it's a strong endorsement for me to say that as a spiritual practitioner, if I wanted to see any other practitioner for healing or reading, it will be her. I would have chosen her. I love just the energy and encouragement. So I'm very, very privileged and honored to have her back here in Singapore and to come to my place and have speak to you guys in my talk show about a variety of stuff. So thank you very much, Alison, for gracing us with your energies, your presence, and your service.
Thank you, Luke, and thank you for inviting me to your lovely home and to do this film. I've been so excited about coming back to connect with you again.
Indeed, and this is the right place and right time for it, because she's been so in demand that I've been trying to hound her, come, I need to interview you, and she, and now it's the right time that she is free to connect, and even in fact, it almost didn't happen because, she still had so many clients, and she said, okay, I need a break, and I need to do this, alright, so, I really, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for being here. Could you start by telling the audience a little bit about yourself and your background?
So, as Luke said, I'm a reverend. I'm an interfaith minister, so I work with people across the religions. That's my training. My actual work, though, is about helping people to reconnect spiritually. I feel as though this is something that's really important around the world today. And I don't sit within any particular religion myself. This is a healing tool, it's not a crucifix. For me, it's very, very important, and I know that it's my purpose and path, is not to sit in any particular religion, and by doing that, I create the space to open up for everybody. We tend to have this thing, don't we? We can go to certain places and connect with certain people. So for me, it's really important that I remain neutral. My journey began as a very, very small child. I guess I came in with the healing and the gifts that I have. My journey's been about coming back to them and allowing myself and giving myself permission to come back to them. I didn't have great experiences as a child because of these natural gifts that I had, and soon learnt that in my family it wasn't safe to use them. So back in my 20s, I began to really reconnect back up as I was travelling abroad from 19, 20. And over the years I've been doing all sorts of different kinds of work, working in the different services, caring services, working with young people, working with female sex workers, working with people coming off drugs and alcohol, and naturally having this gift and this ability to help people to heal, and just knowing what's needed, even though the services around me weren't necessarily hitting the mark. So a lot of the work I was doing was quietly, rather than actually doing what I was supposed to be doing. That's fine, that was good. I was able to connect with the people in the right way. And then over the years I've done all sorts of different things, and I began, I was invited as a spiritual director for a place called the Monastery in Manchester, which was still scaffolding and hard hats after having a huge refurb. I can't think of the word.
Refurbishment?
No, it wasn't refurb, restoration.
Restoration.
So I was invited to go as the spiritual director there, and I was there for about 4 or 5 years, and invited some of the most amazing leaders and spiritual teachers around, created one of the biggest mind, body, spirits, and also the likes of Mother Mary and James Twyman and Diana Cooper and spiritual leaders. And then I had my own radio show for 5 years. 2 years of it was in an actual studio and then 3 years on the internet. And I was invited to go and work with one of the Secret Millionaires, which is a television programme in the UK, and set up a foundation there. Some of the work that I did from both the monastery and the foundation is still ongoing projects today. And some of them I had actually forgotten that I'd been part of that creation project. So it's quite nice to go back and relive some of these things. And also, I've recognised some of the work is actually for the future as well.
Yes, you're sowing and
the
planting
retreats,
seeds.
absolutely,
Yes.
and just putting things around and then watching it flourish in different parts. And then it reminds me when I need to see it as well of some of the things that for my future, for what I wish to create with my centre. And then I suppose, fast forwarding a little bit, I was ordained as an interfaith minister in 2010. That came from me delivering talks around the names of God and helping people just to think about the unity of religion and the unity of the name of God. And I lit a candle on the altar and said, if I'm meant to do something, I know I'm meant to do more, but I'm not sure what, show me. And 10 days later I received a text message asking me if I fancied trained to be an interfaith minister. And I knew that was my answer, so I said yes immediately, which I did. And it was the one and only time that the ministry training was at the monastery. Normally it's in London or in Scotland. So it was an honour to be able to do it in the place that was my spiritual home as well. Creating all sorts of different meditations for hundreds of people, and so many things there. Once the ordination happened, I moved on. 2014, I was sat in meditation and I was asked by the divine if I would sell everything and let go of all the possessions I owned, my home, my car, my possessions, the people around me, relationships, my family. I had questions around my children, but apart from that, they were adults. But apart from that, I knew that I had to do it because this was my spiritual purpose and my calling. And I wouldn't be fulfilled unless I said yes. So I did, sold everything and then headed for Bali and delivered a retreat in Bali. I'd been invited to China, went to China, Malaysia, and that's evolved from China to here in Singapore, to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia. I've been asked to go to Australia, America, Vienna, Hong Kong. So everything's just evolving. Been in Uganda, been asked to go back and do some work with some women there. And that's my passion. It really is about empowering women, is my passion. And also the main thing that I know that I'm here to do is to help people to open up spiritually.
How can people do that? How can people open up spiritually, Because just listening to you, you have a wealth of experience. Basically, you've been serving all your life, right, since a child in different capacities. And some people, when you're newly awakening and they feel the urge to serve as a healer or as a practitioner or as a teacher, but they're scared. So what gave you the bravery? What gave you the impetus to say, I'm going to sell everything and leave my family to go to Bali and just travel the world and do this and to serve? What advice can you give to someone who receive an inspiration but they're just scared and they're still holding back by fear and their limitations?
It's an interesting one because so many people say to me, "You're so brave."
Yes, indeed.
I just don't see that.
It seems normal.
I don't see that there's any fear, but then I suppose I've always lived that way. I think the fact that I've had to break through so very, very much of my family conditioning, so very much of the fear stuff that was based from being a child, that I don't see the life that I live as being anything to be frightened of.
Yes.
I can remember somebody saying many years ago, about something being really scary and laughing at something that didn't seem scary. And actually the thing that didn't seem scary, which was in relationship to my mother, was actually the scariest of all of it. So I've had to do a huge amount of healing within myself. And I feel that the more healing we do of our history and our stuff that conditions us or limits us or creates pain within our bodies and within our minds, the more we heal that, the more naturally we will evolve. Because to be able to do that, we have to begin to look inside.
Into ourselves. And most of the time we are afraid to look into ourselves, because we're scared of what we're finding. We're not ready to face it yet.
Yeah, and also how many times do people think, it's like we have this vision of something, and it feels like this great big monster. It feels so big, and then when we turn and look at it, actually it's a little mouse. I know that some things are big, don't get me wrong, because I've had to look at a lot of big stuff within myself. And I've worked with many people who have had horrendous torture and abuse and all sorts of things. So I'm not dismissing any of that. But there's just an awful lot of it that our ego creates this massive big issue when it maybe isn't.
You make a mountain out of a molehill.
We do, don't we?
Exaggerate, dramatize, intensify,
Yes.
because it's really on the mind, really. So
it is.
It's not to make it trivial, but you can kind of switch it away or make it more real by your focus and attention.
I think so, and I think by focusing on it, actually that's when it dissolves.
Yeah.
Quite often we might have to go through some pain.
Yeah, initially
it will dissolve. But I think the other part of it is we survived it. Once, at some point when that happened, we survived it, when it was actually happening.
It makes you stronger.
And here, now, facing something, yes, it's painful, yes, it's difficult, we might cry, all those different things,
Yes.
we might be angry and need to do something with that anger, but actually we survived it all those years ago. So if it was something that happened when you were 10, you still, and you're in your 50s, you're here to live it.
It's a process.
40 odd years, you've actually survived that.
Yeah, you didn't die.
You didn't die then.
Yes.
All those things. So what you're doing is you're looking back at it. But what we do is we think it, we live in it as though it's real today. It's still here with us, and actually it's with us within our bodies and it's within our minds. Or actually what we're seeing is a wall. We're actually seeing a block and a barrier to even looking at it. And maybe once you look over that wall or over that barrier, that's when you realise it's not as big as your mind has created it to be for all these years. And it's easier to let it go than hold it. So many people are exhausted because they've been carrying this thing for such a long time.
Yeah, baggage.
So heavy. And then they gosh, I didn't realise. And it was so simple to let go. That's not for everybody. And I really don't want to dismiss people that have had horrendous experiences. But for the majority
when you're ready,
yes.
Yeah.
And even though, even for some of the people that have experienced the most horrendous abuse, actually quite often they're the most courageous when it comes to looking at things. I suppose a bit like myself, in my journey, there's very little through my own experience or through the work I've done that I haven't experienced. So for me, this is like going for a dance and a play and reward in the world.
Yeah, I think just listening to you, I get the sense that giving up your old life and giving up all the past baggage was just the next natural progression. That's why it felt natural and organic, and you didn't feel like anything extraordinary. It's just a very seamless flow. You're just going down with the flow of the river, the downstream.
Yeah.
You see, there's no resistance.
No, and it's recognising what my work is, and for me, I know that I have a job to do in the world, and I'm happy to do it, and I love what I do, so I go to play. That's the beauty for me. What I do is play.
Right. Could you tell the audience what are some of your ongoing as well as upcoming projects? Because you shared some with me, and I thought they were absolutely fascinating. I can't wait for some of them to come.
Yeah, I mean, some of the things that I'm doing at this moment in time, I'm here in Singapore, just completing tomorrow. Been doing some one-to-ones and some relationship workshops, and then I head to Bali again, I'll be doing some more one-to-one work there. And that's the chakra healing work. And for me, it's, it pinpoints. So an example of pinpointing is, and what I mean is, a gentleman contacted me who had chronic fatigue, and he'd been ill for 5 years, couldn't walk. It stopped him from being within work and everything. He'd been on so many different programs, trying to heal it and do different things. Nothing worked. And then he heard that I'd been working with somebody else, and after a couple of sessions they were cured from the same disease. So he contacted me. Within 2 minutes I told him, because I feel everything through my body of what's happening for other people. So I told him what was happening for him, which bypassed the logic, because of course for him, he was a businessman who travelled the world, in an industry that was very
mundane and conventional.
So for him to suddenly have this person telling him what it had taken 10 doctors to tell him, and months of tests, etc., helped him to move very quickly past, she doesn't know her stuff kind of thing, or she's a bit la-la. And so we booked a session, and within 2 sessions for him, it was completely gone. So, and I was able to pinpoint the exact age. He was in his 40s. I was able to tell him the exact age that he was and what was happening at that moment that made him create a decision within his mind and his body that led to him having chronic fatigue all those years later. And I find that so often is that we make these decisions that continue working within our subconscious and then eventually lead to disease and illness within the body. And then we say, well, where did that come from? So I'm very blessed to have that gift that's able to identify the exact moment in time and then work from there.
Tell us about this, the mobile app that you are going to create.
Yeah, creating a mobile app for healing. So it's really exciting because as soon as I put the thought out there, it's like everything comes to make it happen.
Yes.
And it's just beautiful the way the flow of the universe comes to, because it's something's meant to be. So I've been having conversations whilst I'm here in Singapore. I'd had some offers whilst I was in the UK of financing an app for me. And so then I've had offers from here in Singapore in connections with China to create an app that will be about an app where people can go to access healing. I feel like I want to hold back on some of the information around it at this moment in time, but it'd be really nice another time when it's ready to come and talk to you.
Yes,
and
we look forward to that. I mean, you already shared some of it with me, and I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm excited
to launch it.
Well. Yeah.
Right. Could you help us telling the audience about some of the upcoming retreats that you have that are ongoing?
Yeah, so we've got one here in Singapore in May, and that's the Goddess Retreat, and that's working. It's purely women, I'm afraid. But that's about healing patriarchal wounds that have existed for thousands of years, that have come through the generations of women and men. I know that men need healing too, but I'm just focusing at this moment in time on women, so that they can really get in touch with the root pains and memories that are stored within their cells, within their body, and clear it. I actually held one of these in China, in Beijing, for 60 women, and it was so powerful, which is what led to me coming to Singapore and to Malaysia. People were talking about it in Hong Kong and brought me here. It was very powerful, and the days leading up to it, the workshop was Friday, Saturday and Sunday, and on the Thursday my Kundalini was going crazy. It was just rising, my energy was building and building, and then on the Friday my body began to change, and by Friday evening I knew I was pregnant. And on Saturday evening I was having contractions all night, and on Sunday, as the huge shift in energy for the 60 odd women that I was working with, as they were unfolding and they're really getting in touch with that real deep pain and releasing it, I was giving birth. So by the time they had completed their journey, I was back to normal, which was nice. But yeah, we had security come knocking on the door over and over again in Beijing because we were making so much noise.
Sounds like it was a fun and fruitful retreat.
It was amazing,
the people
so
here,
powerful.
The people here in Singapore get to experience that as well.
They do, and even though I'm asked to write, you know, the outline of what the retreat will be, and I'm asked to put some ideas together of what skills and tools I'll be using, I actually turn up without anything.
Yeah, it's fluid.
Because I don't have anything to look to, because everything's channeled.
Yeah, it's not only that, the group dynamics are different, you see. So you have to go with the flow of what the participants require.
But it is very much all the energy comes through me, and I'm used to fill the room. And I do attunements at the beginning, so I'm opening people up to what happens. I do them every morning.
Exciting, you know. You're sometimes known by your spiritual name, Vishoka. Could you share with the audience how that came about?
Yeah, I was in India with the head of the Hindu religion, and he gave me the spiritual name, which means Vishoka means tree that people come to heal their grief. Which is pretty much about right.
Very appropriate.
And of course the size of me as well, you know.
So, you know, you just naturally recognize and draw women to come to you for emotional healing, and this is why you're the right person to teach that goddess retreat, because a lot of women have traumatic or pain related to their relationships.
Absolutely.
And they hold up emotional burden, and so they come and off-talk that to you.
Thank you.
So come to me and come to me while you're burdened.
It's a good job I see the energy, isn't it? So I can clear it on.
Yes, for them.
Yeah, and so I've been doing the relationship workshop here in Singapore. I've done that in many countries.
Many countries, yes.
And that's it's looking at relationships, but it's also healing in relationship, in relationship to the masculine and feminine and our history. And I see that, you know, our spiritual. We were asking before about our spiritual practice. Part of that is, you know, patriarchal religions have taught us that it's the mainly male-led.
Yeah.
And actually, without the masculine and feminine energy, our divinity comes through the whole of that. You know, creation, a woman, you know, holding a child within and giving birth to a child is creation itself.
Indeed.
You know, and so. Yeah, a lot of it. So a lot of people don't really understand and don't really know how to be in relationship to themselves, never mind another person. So a lot of it is teaching about what happens within. It's also a reflection of the outer, or the outer's reflection of what's happening within us. So coming back to your question around how do we connect spiritually and how do we deepen that? We're taught in society and in life globally to look outside of ourselves constantly. We nourish and feed ourselves by things, by gadgets, by tools, by shopping, by people, by everything else. And so everything, and also a lot of religion is taught in that way, that we look to the person at the front to give us access to God, to divinity, to whatever the name is. The place we need to come to is within ourselves. That's where we find out what's happening. That's where we find out what's really going on within ourselves. We are naturally connected with our divinity, naturally. It is part of us. But what happens is because we have all this stuff and all this pain and all this detachment from our emotions and our intuition going on within us, is that we come inside ourselves, feel pain, and we run away quickly. We don't want to face that. So therefore, until we heal that, we rarely get the opportunity to really just be quiet within ourselves, to listen to what our divine self, our higher self, whatever your word is speaking. So it's about practices. We can practice using our breath. We can practice by sitting quietly. We can do guided meditations, which you can get from all over the place. You can go to classes, you can get them, download them off the internet, etc. That will just take us on a journey that allows us to quieten the mind. There are practices that teach quietening the mind, but for a lot of people whose minds are so busy and so stressed, it's a very difficult thing to do initially. Whereas if you go for guided meditations where it takes you for a walk in the woods or a walk on the beach or whatever, to meet different aspects of yourself or to heal something. Those are great ways initially to begin that process of quietening the mind. So find your own way, find out what works for you. Sometimes it's about prayer. You know, prayer is a meditation, walking is a meditation, you know, and also letting go of this thing of if we don't do it every single day, well then it's wrong and I got it wrong. None of it is wrong. If you're finding a deeper connection within yourself initially, ways of learning about who you are and what needs healing within you, what your purpose is, what you enjoy. Some people have no idea really, they just follow a path of what they've been told, almost a bit robotic. And you know, the media and everything out there is part of that, you know, creating robots in us wanting and needing all these exciting things and these pretty colours and these nice handbags and the latest drug and all these different things. So it's, yeah, just slowly, you know, begin to listen. Your own voice, you're the expert on yourself. You know, if you're 40, you've known yourself for 40 years. So if you're walking into a therapeutic situation, you know, that person might have met you for 5 minutes. You know the answers. Find somebody that's going to hold the space maybe to quieten. You know, like you do, Luke, you have the bowls. Fantastic way of just quietening. A fantastic way of getting in touch with yourself. Sound is a beautiful way of doing it, and it's the, you know, we have this thing of in the beginning was the word. The word was sound. It, you know, so the crystal bowls and things that have been rediscovered and created for today are what really, really resonates through our bodies. So sound is a perfect way of quietening and of listening. And also healing, bringing things out that need to be looked at and addressed. Don't be frightened of it. Like I say, for the majority, it's a little nice when we think it's a great big monster.
Beautiful words, Alison. Thank you for the reminder. You know, it's all divinity actually resides in us. We have to just quiet out the outside world and give us a commit and give ourselves some time to tune into our higher selves.
Yeah.
Right, Alison, could you tell the audience where can you go to find out more about you, your classes, and how can they reach out and contact you?
Okay, so my website is ashoka.net. Having said that, the latest things aren't quite on there yet. So for Singapore, for the Goddess Retreat in Singapore, it's the Lighthouse Productions.
I'll be placing all these websites and links below, so feel free to click on them. Right.
And then for China, it's New Age. Oh, I'm not quite sure actually.
You find out any
I'll find out and let you
the
know.
video. Right.
Yeah, so ashoka.net for the UK.
Yes.
To contact me for any questions, for invitations to anywhere in the world. I'm always open to them and love travelling, as you can tell.
Thank you again, Alison. We hope to have you again in a future video to speak on different topics.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for watching this video. Please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more inspiring and entertaining videos to come.